the pollsters that go and find out what the majority of people are wanting, and they go and give them and just turn into whatever it is that the people want. They're basically followers of the mass polls, and then they go and fit there, and there's basically hypocrisy that they live with, and they don't know how to manage it. So they're not really a leader, they're a follower of the polls. When the markets are excited, exuberant, and manic, and people look like they're in an accelerator, it's called the accelerator state, and things like the markets are just booming and they're doing it, they start thinking, wow, I'm intelligent. I'm going to borrow money at 5% or 4% or 3% or 2%. And I'm going to put it in a market that's giving me 10 or 12 to 15%. And I'm going to be a brilliant person buying overpriced stock. And while it's going up, they don't understand what the actual mean is in the market. And anytime you buy above the mean, you're buying overpriced stock, which will eventually come back to the mean and go below the mean and oscillate. That's a general principle. So the person that's in the exuberant phase and is following conformity of the herd and is going out and getting exuberant when foolish people do, because if you're blind by a manic phase, you're blind to the downsides, which is going on because you're buying overpriced stock. And then when you go and get cocky and think you know what you're doing when you don't, and then you go and borrow money because you want to leverage yourself, and then when the market goes crashing down, then all of a sudden you got to pay the loan, and now you've lost the money because you overpaid price, and then you end up doing it, and then you freak out, and then it goes below the mean, and then you sell, then you're down and you're in panic, and you sell. Then two fools, the manic and the panic, the exuberant and the depressed, don't know how to manage money because they give it away. When you're down, you get altruistic and give it away. When you're narcissistic, you tend to want to grab and use other people's money to make you money. Both of those mechanisms, over leverage and deleveraging the systems like that, are a classical sign of emotions running it instead of objectivity. The objectivity finds what the mean of the market is. That's what the average is. And every time it goes above the mean, it's time to be stockpiling cash. When it goes below the mean, it's time to buy. And so the people that manage their money wisely with objectivity and don't get into fantasies of success and go exuberant and talk and get extroverted about their smarts of buying overpriced stock, and then go into introversion when all of a sudden they sell it and they lost their money. And then they think the stock market did it to me. I'm amazed at how many people that are foolish with money think the stock market did it to them. Stock market didn't do anything. Stock market just goes up and down and gradually grows up in capital gains and dividends. And people that know how to use the money and use the mean make money on it over and over again and keep wisely, patiently building wealth. So the emotions interfere with money making. Warren Buffett says, until you can manage emotions, don't expect to manage money. And it's true. Animals with the amygdala don't make money. It's humans with an objective, reasoning, intuitive system that can make money. So now let's go away from money. Let's go back to business. When you exaggerate yourself and puff yourself up and think you're successful, I got so successful, I stopped doing what got me there. And what happens is you tend to depurpose, you tend to go to lower priority things, you start to talk down to your customers, you start not listening to customers, not meeting customers' needs to get humbled. And that's just a lesson. And you get down, now you think you're a failure, again, foolish, but then the failure feelings makes you go back to priority, repurpose, go back to what is important to go meet your customers' needs. And when you stick to your customers' needs and find equity and equanimity between you and them and keep objective to what that is and keep resiliently adapting to that, you don't have these wild swings in your emotions. You're able to keep yourself centered. And if you can't manage your emotions, don't expect to manage companies, just like money. And the same thing in your relationship. When your relationship, if you're cocky and you start to look down on your mate, you're going to project your values onto her. She can't live in your values, or he can't live in your values. And now you have a fantasy about who they're going to be. And now you're not loving who they are. You're loving the fantasy you're trying to make them. And if you then fall and crash and they decide they're going to leave you or have an affair, and you think, oh my God, how can they do that? They betrayed me. No, they didn't. They didn't feel loved. They weren't feeling appreciated for who they were. I've asked people in the breakthrough experience 1,000 times, 10,000 times, how many people want to be loved and appreciated for who they are? Every hand goes up. So if you're basically talking down to them, you're not loving for who they are. You're projecting onto them. Then if you get down and you get humble and you're afraid they're going to leave you, then you end up sacrificing you, and then you end up presenting that. So any of those polarizations undermine the relationship. But if you're sitting there and you have a match, you have respect for each other, you keep each other in check, and you have equity. Because every person in the relationship is keeping an inventory of any time it's been out of fair exchange, and they know it. They either feel down because they feel that they got more than they deserve, or they feel up and they feel you got more than you deserve. And they're trying to find an equanimity. It's called equity theory. Now in social leadership, you're going to have poles. Society's got a full spectrum of value systems. They're going to be supporters and challengers. The real leaders know both are there and keep down the center. The pollsters that go and find out what the majority of people are wanting and they go and give them and just turn into whatever it is that the people want. They're basically followers of the mass polls, and then they go and fit there, and there's basically hypocrisy that they live with. And they don't know how to manage it. So they're not really a leader. They're a follower of the polls. And most of our politicians are that way. And poly means many and ticks means bloodsucker. Politics means many bloodsuckers. I'm joking, it's a bad joke. So, but in the process of doing that, they're actually run from the emotions of the herd. And they're going based on what they think will market it. And that's okay, it's how they get to be in their election, but it's not how you lead. You lead by a clear objective, and you know you're going to be supported and challenged equally, and you manage paradoxes, and you stay focused on the mission, and you let the paradoxes work themselves out, because they're going to oscillate back and forth. If you look at all the presidents in the United States, for instance, you'll see there's been Republican and Democrat, Republican and Democrat, Republican, Republican, then Democrat, Democrat. It's always going back and forth, and everybody thinks this side is going to save the day, and then this side's going to save the day. No, the synthesis of the two is what maintains the stability of a government. But people just go back and forth thinking their dopamine is going to get them a better deal. They're looking for a happy, because whatever's happening when they think, when I get here, I'll be happy. When they get there, they find out the downsides and think, oh, well, when it's over there, I'll get happy again. And they're just twisting with the polls, and the polls are going from one extreme to the other. And so the people out there have to be liars. You have to hire liars to tell you that one thing to meet the poll, and then when the polls shift, they got to meet those polls again. And so, yes, you're meeting the masses, but at the same time, you're not really leading. When it comes to physiology, if you're manic, your parasympathetic nervous system comes online. And what happens now, you're infatuated with things, and now you fear the loss of it. And if you're resentful to things and you got the sympathetic system on, now you fear the gain of things. So the more polarized you are in your emotions, the more fears and fantasies and more instabilities, and the more your body creates symptoms to let you know it. And the higher the volatility in your physiology, the shorter your lifespan. So in your physiology, all the feedback that's going on, the so-called success of feeling good and the so-called failure of feeling bad, the feeling bad could be actually part of your healing process. And the feeling good could be actually covering up the healing process. So beware of the illusions of feeling good and taking a pill to get you to feel good, because that's actually undermining and causing some of the diseases. And that's wiser to let your physiology give you feedback and use it wisely to guide your behavior. When it comes to spirituality, spirituality is not ecstasy. It's not euphoria. It's not utopia. It's not an afterlife that's going to be all bliss. It's a grounded reality and seeing how to take whatever's happening in your life and having resiliently appreciate it, and how you can be grateful for your life. And many times people are sucked into a dogma of something that it's going to be better. I'm going to get, if I do enough meditation, I'm going to get to bliss and finally have no individual ego or something like that. That's a delusion. You're going to end up having your real reality in your physical body sitting there waiting there and getting back grounded to go and fill in the other areas of your life. Ground yourself and do something that's really meaningful to your life and fill your day with priorities that are inspiring to you. And you'll have the most inspiration. You'll make the most contribution. You'll have the most fulfillment in the 7 areas of your life. And when you do, you won't be hoodwinked by fantasies because of the unfulfillment. When we're unfulfilled and we're not filling our day with high priority actions, we're vulnerable to quick get rich schemes in business and finance, quick business opportunities, quick relationship impulses. And we keep going for quick fixes. And then we're vulnerable to the quick fix religion. It's going to give you happiness in the afterlife. Or if you follow this, you're going to be finally happy or whatever. It's bullshit. You're going to have a new set of constraints. There's no liberty without constraint. And when it comes to mental, anytime you infatuate with something or resent with something, it occupies space and time in your mind. It creates neuroassociative complexes in the brain. They're looking for their opposites, the anti-memories they call them. And it's trying to find an equilibrium in molecular, synaptic, and in electronic energy in the body. Is trying to bring homeostasis. So if we're all distorted with our perceptions, we won't have that. We literally won't be able to stabilize ourselves and get ourselves centered in the objective. But if we fill our day with high priority actions and aspire and live by our executive center, we bring ourselves more objectivity. What objectivity means, even and neutral, and it takes us, and we're not biased and polarized with opinions that throw us off, skewed opinions. Every weekend in the breakthrough experience, people come in there with skewed opinions. every week I show them a science on how to dissolve those so they're going to be run from the extrinsic world and they can be finally guided from within. I said on The Secret, when the voice and the vision on the inside is greater than all opinions on the outside, then you begin to master your life. But you won't get that living by low priorities. You'll only get that by accessing the highest priorities and stick to priority every day. Thank you for joining me for this presentation today. If you found value out of the presentation, please go below and please share your comments. We certainly appreciate that feedback. And be sure to subscribe and hit the notification icons. That way I can bring more content to you and share more to help you maximize your life. I look forward to our next presentation. Thank you so much for joining.